Good morning, and for those who have night, may be as peaceful as possible. You've probably noticed from the announcement that my intervention, as I've told you, promises nothing good for this illusion. However, it does offer justice for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, created, fallen, formed, from whichever clan, ruler, leader, or governed. And so the time has come to lay all the cards on the table and see how things work in this illusory reality, to play with open cards. For the past 10 years I haven't been sitting idly by as some might think, but when Satan's storyline came to an end I made certain changes. Even back then I talked about a certain Western project, USSR 2, and pointed out that it would be better if it wasn't necessary. The events happening now create an illusion for those who are unaware, unknowing, or uncomprehending that just little more, and justice will prevail. The laws will once again reign supreme, and of course all the so-called robbers who looted the people will be punished. The USSR will be restored along with the same social system that was lost in 1991. So what's happening? Nothing special. Most of you have seen a comedy Wedding in Malinovka. Wore it for a while, now give it to someone else. During the rule of Leonid Ilyich Brezhnev, the so-called party nomenclatura was formed, a new clan that took power from the so-called Reds after Stalin's death. This clan is the one that sold out the US after the USSR lost the Cold War, and representatives of this clan became collaborators to preserve what they had acquired during the Soviet era. The true master who in 1977 bought the USSR lock, stock and barrel is the Illuminati, the fallen ones, the representatives of the East. They would have been dispossessed immediately. So they became the so-called pro-American liberal elite, trying to implant their globalist projects under the control of the UN and the US. What I didn't know is that the same Illuminati controls this entire process. This included figures like Chubai, Skada, Grief, Nabulina, and many others. You've been explicitly told that there are no real states anymore. The power is now in the hands of corporations and transitional corporations, both in the West and the East. The confrontation is not between countries or states, but between corporations. For your information, the state is just another corporation, just named differently. It's another model of transitional corporate governance. Now let's try to sort this out from the beginning. In 2014, the Pope announced a change in the governance model. All states were to be dissolved. This means that the Roman law created by Satan would no longer be valid. What are the consequences of this? There's now a division between maritime corporations and transitional corporations and continental ones, where maritime transitional corporations and corporations are governed by the legal system of admiralty law. Meanwhile, former continental states, stripped of their status within this legal framework, are tuning into colonies and maritime transitional corporations. This explains why the Russian Federation is registered as an island corporation on islands that possesses colonies with the borders of the USSR. And since the USSR collapsed, it is now within the borders of the Russian Federation or the Russian Republic. And of course, as an island state, it is subject to the legal system of maritime admiralty law. All the other former Soviet republics do not have this status. They are continental colonies. This maritime status of the Russian Federation was granted to it as the successor state of the USSR. This prevented its true owners, the Illuminati, the fallen angels, the Greys, from fully occupying it as a continental transitional corporation as their own property. After the defeat in the Cold War, the USSR, and with it Russia, the Russian Federation became a colony of the US and did the former Soviet republics, which are now famously called states. And of course, the post-Soviet countries that were once Soviet colonies like Romania, Czechoslovakia, Poland, and the others. However, since Russia, the Russian Federation, is an island state under admiralty law, it has a huge advantage over all others, even the right to gain sovereignty and independence from the US. But of course, the US is not eager to grant this opportunity. That is why the well-known coordinator of the National Liberation Movement, NOT, Fedorov, keeps insisting that sovereignty is necessary, that the motherland must be defended, and that the country must become free. He doesn't understand one thing: sovereignty will be granted to the Russian Federation registered on those islands, where the territory of Russia itself becomes a contentious issue because it has specific owner who will swallow it up. At the moment, this cannot be done openly, because the Russian Federation, along with its colony of continental Russia, is a colony of the US. To get out of the situation, Russia needs to acquire some status as a colony of the Russian Federation. And this is where a new model of state governance is forming. The question remains, who will shape this new model? The former Soviet nomenclatura, or the so-called opposition side, the former whites, who are calling for the return of the Tsar, monarchy and the status of the Russian Empire, which could resist the East, which claims rights to the territories and resources now represented by Russia. In other words, only a state with a new model of governance can oppose the East. As you know, the Russian Empire was always controlled by the Freemasons in the form of the German aristocracy. In our previous meetings, I showed you who the representatives of the elites of the Russian Empire were, and even Emperor Nicholas II himself. Doesn't it seem strange to you that Europe sold telegram to the Freemasons? And in the colony of Russia there is a change of power. Representatives of the imperial house are removing the former party nomenclatura. And based on Russia, they are trying to restore the Russian Empire in the form of a state. So everything that is happening is a struggle between two clans for power and the right to shape a new model of transitional corporate governance that can resist the pressure from the East. And the whole process is being concealed under the guise of the Russian Federation as the maritime power. So one group is disopposing another. And until everything is settled, a new model of conventional transitional governance is created. Everything will remain in a state of semi-controlled chaos. Now let's take a look at the bigger picture, what is happening. There is a confrontation between maritime transitional corporations represented by the US, the UK, Australia and all island nations, and the colonial colonies where Russia, under the guise of the Russian Federation, is trying to gain sovereignty. That is why such an Eastern alliance of transitional corporations and companies called BRICS was created. Russia is balancing between the so-called West and the East, where the East represents continental corporations trying to break free from the control of maritime transitional corporations. That is, the continental corporations are trying to escape their colonial status under the maritime transitional corporations. Russia, due to its position, is the leader among the continental corporations, meaning it plays a good double game. The Illuminati control the United States. They hold the UN in their hands, as well as virtually all former states and corporations of Europe. In Russia, the Illuminati have taken control of nearly all regions, managing them through the UN and the so-called Union of Cities. All regions are under the control of the so-called nomenclatura party elite, who after the collapse of the USSR immediately transformed into globalists. As I've explained to you, it's not the Freemasons fighting Russia, rather the Russian Federation, but the Illuminati, using Europeans as their tools under their command. And of course, the so-called nomenclatura party elites governing the regions are doing everything they can to ensure that Russia, the Russian Federation, loses this war. So according to the plot and scenario, this is a war between the Freemasons and the Illuminati, where the Freemasons represent Russia, the Russian Federation. They are now disposing the Illuminati severance and nomenclatura party elite, using the framework of conventional Roman law, painting them as traitors to the homeland. Of course, according to the script, these elites are trying to block their path using the called digital technologies, aiming to establish a digital concentration camp in Russia based on the model they are perfecting in China. So this is a life or death struggle. Before our meeting, I shared an announcement with information about what's happening in Italy, and of course the Illuminati, who control the United States and the UN, are very concerned about this, as they have the gates of hell beneath their feet and need new territory to move to. If Europe falls, the next option is Russia. This is the main reason they don't want to allow the Freemasons to create a continental state in Russia with a new governance model. They don't want to miss this chance, with Russia was almost completely taken over by them and is being swallowed up under their ownership. Otherwise, the Illuminati face the prospect of a direct war with Russia, not through the hands of Europe's population, but as confrontation between the two opposing structures. Here we are dealing with the plot scenarios and roars of the illusion. But there's another side of the coin, reality, which exists beyond this illusion, in a part of the planet known as Yav. The outcome of how events unfold in the illusion will determine who will control Yav, and this will automatically influence parallel states, Nav and Prav. The key question is whether the fallen angels, the Greys and the Illuminati will succeed in controlling Nav, or whether they will become dependent and fall under the control of the representatives of Nav. This is why he and the illusion have made a demand to the Freemasons, representatives of the dark aristocracy, to remove the Illuminati from all power structures in Western civilization. If this happens, Russia under the guise of the Russian Federation will free itself from the Illuminati's control. This will lead to the formation of a bipolar world, where the interaction of these polarities will no longer be a matter of maritime and conventional corporations and transitional corporations, but a matter of two opposing systems with Yahv, which belongs to humanity and the soul once again functioning as a neutral zone, as it always has. For now, you've received more than enough information. Delve into it, study it. I'll say goodbye until our next meeting on Friday. Sovereign of the Universe, the First, Fearless.